I've had the benefit of working with you guys as partners and watching you guys work as partners for a long time. Talk about what it was like when you first met each other. You know, you've been involved in 2 businesses together, but when you first met each other at whatever drunken party you were at, you know, what was the first reaction? Sort of how did the relationship develop? What kind of things did you do together to get to know each other? Legal things.
My first reaction was Ryan worked for the Object
Management Group.
Management Group, which was an early group that was trying to promote object technology. We were in the Object Paradigm Research Group, OPRG, at CU with the Professor David Menarche, where we didn't have anything better to do than to go learn more at night, and we just loved this class. And he was at the OMG, and he brought that industry knowledge into the classroom and got up and said, people just want plug and play. Plug and play is where it's at with software. And he sounded like he really knew what he was talking about. And of course, he was kind of full of shit. But I was so impressed with how confident he was about suggesting a market dynamic that I always looked at this guy and said, he's really smart. I should figure out a way to work with him.
Yeah, that was pretty much full of shit. I spent, for some reason, as Tim describes, kind of lowly descriptions of what you do in your off hours. For some reason, back then they used to ship big industry press mags. InfoWorld was by far my favorite. And I read that cover to cover every week it came out. That was, in graduate school, I was just enamored with the software industry. And I got a internship while I was in the graduate school for the Object Management Research Group. So I got way into marketing while I was doing that. And so it was pretty much as all marketers are, pretty much full of tongue.
I've trained you well.
Yeah. So that was how Tim remembers it. Tim, when we started this consulting company, Tim brought in a lot of understanding of stuff, of fiddling with things. If you know Tim and how you can spend a year on a boat, you have to know how to fix everything. Tim actually knows how to fix everything when it comes to hardware and when it comes to networking stuff, and took our consulting company back in 1992 and put us on the internet. So we all got slip accounts, slip and PPP accounts for those people who know what those are, which is dial-up accounts to basically an email server that was, you could think of kind of in the cloud. And as a result of that, that put us on a trajectory that we'll probably talk about, of throwing a lot of stuff at the wall associated with the internet. And the thing that we mentioned about Quest Communications was we had the joy of working with a 20-year veteran at Quest from the network side of the business, who came down to Denver from Seattle. And we started working with internet technologies back then. And Quest had obviously a lot of network and was trying to figure out what to do with all this stuff. And Tim's work with this allowed us to create this thing at US West that they called the Global Village, but it was basically an intranet. But it was the first intranet. And when we started playing with that, there were 35 different companies listed on the World Wide Web. That was 1994, and the only browser you could get was a NCSA browser.
I love the What's New page.
Yeah.
There was a What's New page for the internet.
Because there was new things that came up every week.
There was usually something that hit it maybe every day or two.
So what were those things that we learned from? We worked our asses off as consultants. We were about 1 or 2 minutes in front of what we were supposed to be doing, because we really didn't know a whole hell of a lot, but we figured out we could learn real quickly, and we had a couple of great consulting coaches who knew what to do, how to get leverage by putting young people in front of what were very big companies and just seeing if you sunk or swam. And we kept swimming, and Tim was the one who put us out, I think, on the edge about how to use those technologies, and that's had a huge shaping function in my career and certainly in where we've been.
So this was 93, 94. You guys were very early in this company. It grew to about 40 people, but you weren't founders of it.
Correct.
What was the internal conversation between the two of you as you were starting to both get restless with the company you're working for, as well as the formative creation of Avitech?
So it's an interesting story. I checked out first out of that company that we hired, as that consulting company was trying to scale and replicate and get. We were working with Tim had been working out of Schwab. I've been at US West and in the telecommunications space for a while. working on billing systems and customer service systems. And we hired in a person who came out of an investment banking group, a gentleman out of New York, to help run the company while two of the founders basically went out and worked on a deal in San Francisco. And he smelled evil the moment I met him. Dripped evil. I quit in the first week I saw him. Tim was mostly in Australia at that point in time, doing a bunch of network work down in Australia and still in Roseville Networks Division at HP.
Working on a project
So
in
he
Australia,
and I were working
California.
together. We worked on a project at US West for a while. We would cross paths through these consulting projects, but he was out in Roseville and working on big network stuff. And I was like, this guy's going to live here in Denver. He's changing the whole way of things. So I left. I checked out.
And when you checked out, what did you do?
I went to work for another consulting company that was working in US West and continuing. I ended up being a director at US West for a while as a consultant in there, and really trying to figure out what to do next because that.
Safe landing, easy exit.
Yeah,
Exactly.
So you bailed on the evil guy. Tim
Yeah.
stuck it out for a little while because he was in California. So how did that play out? Did you know this guy was evil?
He had tremendous power, and he had qualities that I deeply admired. If they could have been used for good, then I think he could have really made a difference in the world. But unfortunately, he was evil, and there's some interesting stuff. I don't know. I suspect not.
Has he ever interviewed at Rally?
He has not. But what I did learn from that really quickly was you can hire one person in a small company, 30, 40 people, and if you don't do something about it, they can destroy it almost overnight. And that was one of the strongest lessons I learned as an entrepreneur early on, and why I care so much about corporate culture. Getting bad people on the bus and putting them in a position of power and authority is a very dangerous thing. And as a result, I guess I have a hard time hiring senior people, but I've done okay with it. I went ahead and started the first company. It resulted from a 9-page PowerPoint deck that I presented to the board of this consulting company, including the evil one. And I said I would give them 50% of the company. All I asked in return was 1 year's salary and the ability to go out and pursue this. And that I would sell my own work and I would go do it. I'd give them 50% for my salary. And my salary, I believe, was about $45,000 a year. So it wasn't a big salary. They said, we'd love it. We really want to do this. And we got a billable project that starts on Monday. So you're going to have to do this in your spare time. So I went off and I quit, and it took me about 3 or 4 months before I kind of got everything lined up and went ahead and started it. I sublet some space from a guy by the name of Andrew Curry, who had a very successful company called Message Media, formerly Email Publishing. He wanted to do reference checks and wasn't sure I was going to be able to pay the $400 a month rent, but I finally convinced him that I would be able to pay. I think I had to pay 3 months in advance, and sort of the rest is history. Bootstrap, self-funded company, all in maybe $25,000, $30,000 of capital in order to build that company into the $10 million business without any outside capital.
So talk about the first year or so of that business. So your new landlord tortures you for a little while. You can't get enough credit to get a coffee maker, so you have to borrow the one that he has to borrow from down the hall because he doesn't have any money either. How does it play out? So here you are, you put your shingle out. What happens next?
I spent the first 2 weeks buying a server, by hand putting it together because I thought I could save a few $100, but back then people built PCs a lot more often than they do now. And then the third week I went out and sold a contract, and I did all the work myself, and it was maybe a 1 or 2 week gig, and then the 5th or 6th week I went out and sold another contract, and I hired an intern from CU. I paid him $6 an hour, and he did some of the work, and I kept selling, and I got my 3rd, my 4th, and my 5th or 4th, and I hired an engineer for $70,000. And he loves to tell the story that I hired him, but I made him bring his own computer. And He did bring his own computer, and we got going. He was awesome. His name is Steve Wilcox, and I've been working with Steve almost as long as Ryan. He's been with us through Avitech and BEA and now Rally. So we just gained momentum. Ryan joined us, I don't know, five or six people in, and we used to say worked with us sort of through osmosis because he was still working for this other consulting company. But Ryan's been able to pretty much ask for whatever he wants in his career because he's so smart. And the other office said, you can work anywhere you want, so go work with Rally. We sold a big project. Avitech, thank you. We sold a big contract to this consulting company, and I don't think you were working directly with us, but it was a great synergistic relationship, and then formally joined us maybe when we were about 8 or 10.